International flights resume August 29 as airports prepare for resumption. Budget: federal government to spend 12.657 trillion naira in 2021. Speakers of African Parliament push for debt cancellation. Plus, analysis of what the inflation and unemployment data published by the National Bureau of Statistics say about the economy, the focus of Business Express today. The program is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. So good to know you always join us on the program. Nigerian skies open to international flights starting with Lagos and Abuja international airports from 29th of this month. Minister of Aviation Hadis Rika announced this Monday evening on his Twitter handle, and I quote, "Glad to announce the resumption of international flights from the 29th of August 2020, beginning with Lagos and Abuja as we did with the domestic flights resumption. Protocols and procedures will be announced in due course. We thank you for your patience." End of quotes. As a result, all evacuation flights which were introduced in the country in the wake of the ban on international flights occasioned by the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic will end on 25th August 2020. That's as Sirika said. Now, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed gives MDA's August 28 as deadline for budget estimates, as the federal government is to spend a sum of 12.658 trillion naira in 2020. According to the budget call circular, the 12.657 trillion naira is to be financed by the revenue estimate of 7.498 trillion naira, leaving a deficit of 5.160 trillion naira. Non-debt recurrent expenditure is expected to take 5.746 trillion naira and a capital budget of 3.086 trillion naira. MDA's capital expenditure is allocated the sum of 1.485 trillion naira and 674.11 billion naira for multilateral and bilateral project-tied loans. Similarly, 234.19 billion naira has been allocated to capital supplementation, 337.06 billion naira for grants and donor-funded projects, 335.59 billion for government-owned enterprises, and 20 billion for SIPs. Debt service has been allocated 3.124 trillion naira. Out of this, domestic debt is allocated 2.183 trillion naira, while foreign debt is expected to take 940 billion naira and a sinking fund of 220 billion naira provisioned to retire maturing loans. The sum of 481.41 billion naira is provisioned for statutory transfers and another 420 billion naira allocated to the Special Intervention Program SIP. Sectoral allocations indicated a priority for MDA's groups under economic development, with the Ministry of Works and Housing receiving the highest allocation of 272.061 billion naira, followed by Power with 178.382 billion naira and Transport with 120.043 billion naira. However, Defense, Ministry of Defense, Army, Air Force and Navy also got 120.043 billion naira. The Ministry of Health was allocated 93.678 billion naira, Water resources, 84.142 billion naira. Agriculture, 83.862 billion naira, while education received 80.216 billion naira. The minister said the 2021 budget would focus on the completion of ongoing projects and that MDAs should avoid introducing new projects. And talking oil, oil prices edged lower this Tuesday in early trade, mostly holding on to overnight gains after OPEC Plus said the producer grouping is almost fully complying with output cuts to support prices amid a drop in demand for fuels due to the coronavirus pandemic. Brent crude was down 6 cents at $45.31 a barrel after gaining 1.3% on Monday. U.S. crude was down 8 cents at $42.81 a barrel, having risen 2.1% in the previous session. Talking currency, the dollar teetered near milestone lows this Tuesday after a triple blow of retreating yields. A look at the commodity market is next, where gold prices edged up on Tuesday on the back of weaker dollar, although gains were capped by a rally in U.S. equities and signs of a recovery in global economic activity. Nigeria's inflation figures have risen again by 12.82% year-on-year in July, compared to 12.56% recorded in June 2020, as the country continues to deal with the impact of COVID-19. This is as indicated in the latest Consumer Price Index report released by the National Bureau of Statistics, which shows that inflation has consistently increased for 11 months. The Composite Food Index rose to 15.48% compared to 15.18% recorded in June 2020. Meanwhile, core inflation, which excludes the prices of volatile agricultural produce, stood at 10.1% in July 2020 compared to 10.13% recorded in June 2020. Now, the continuous rise in the inflation rates, coupled with a high domestic unemployment rate recorded in the second quarter of 2020, indicates a rise in difficulty of the average Nigerian. To analyze such impact on the Nigerian economy is an economist, and he's our guest. He's Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Okay. So another rise in inflation. What do you see as the reasons for this increase?
There are various reasons
Okay.
for this increase. Some of them are directly seen. Some other ones are indirectly seen.
Okay.
But the direct cause of this can be seen with the rise in exchange rates.
Okay.
We could see how high the exchange rate is today compared to where it used to be. So from the time we started having our exchange rate rise from 150 naira per dollar to 250 to dollar, so it has been rising up to today that we have about 470 or 475 in the parallel market, naira to dollar. As far as that rate continues to rise, inflation rate will continue to rise. We have had other issues that may have caused this increase. You recall that when we had a lockdown, goods were finding it difficult to move from one point to another. And so we had short supply of goods. And so it became difficult for people to have access to some of these goods. When there's a shortage of such supply, every likelihood that prices will go up. And of course, we know people couldn't go to farm. And so farm produce couldn't be produced and taken to where they were needed. And so these were the things that led to this increase in price. And once there is an increase in price, obviously, inflation rate will just
Okay,
rise.
so what are the effects of this inflation, the rise in prices for the poor and the vulnerable in the country? Being that I want to believe that most of the rich people may not really feel the impact of these increases.
Yeah, everybody's feeling it. Whether
Okay.
you're rich or middle class or low, you are feeling it because every day your disposable income reduces.
Okay.
If you were earning a particular salary and inflation takes it away from you, you are earning far less than you think you are putting into your pocket. So disposable income is reducing all the time because as prices are rising, you are paying more for that which you would have paid less before. And so everybody's feeling it. What it means is that quality and standard of life is dropping. And when quality and standard of life are dropping, when they are dropping, of course, you know that it becomes difficult for you to enjoy your life, for you to have a free life. And so those are the things
I
that
talked about the impact on the poor and the vulnerable. However, usually we have urban inflation, usually still higher than the rural inflation. For instance, these figures just released for July shows that urban inflation rose by 13.40%, while rural was 12.28%. So at the rural centers, I mean, it means the inflation is still a bit lower than urban centers. What's the reason for this?
The reason is obvious. The fact that most of the items that we use today, agricultural goods and services, most of them come from the rural areas. They produce agricultural things like tomatoes, like onions, and then there is transportation that will take them from the rural areas to the urban centers. And that transportation obviously takes a lot of money today. And so they will put the cost of transportation, the cost of insurance of all those vehicles and things like that. And so when you see movement, and of course the demand is high in the urban areas, while in the rural areas where these things are produced, the demand is low. So these things are taken from the areas of low demand to areas of high demand. And so these prices are determined by supply and demand.
Okay, the figures also show that the highest increases were recorded in the prices of medical services and passenger transport, hairdressing salons, and others. Passenger transport, including road transport, motorbike transport, and so what is the reason for this? Could it be attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, the lockdown created what we call there was shortage of supply. There was shortage of supply, and because there was shortage of supply, and then the demand for pharmaceutical products, like you mentioned, pharmaceutical products, the demand for pharmaceutical products increased while there was shortage of that supply. Now, within the period, people were buying stocks of pharmaceutical products they could consider as remedy for the coronavirus, and so prices went up. In fact, within that period, I saw that ordinary chloroquine phosphate was going for as high. In fact, 1,000% higher than it used to go for. So
That's
many people were
really
stocking.
very high.
Yes, it was very high. Many people were stocking a lot of these drugs while the supply for these drugs were limited and distorted. So that could obviously cause that. And for some other things, even while the lockdown happened, many people were still moving from one city to another. What happened was that they were paying up to 300, 400, 500% higher than they used to pay in order for them to clear the road on the way. So people were still moving around, but paying so much for it. And so those were the reasons why the costs went up.
Okay. So having said all this, what does this continuous increase in inflation mean for Nigeria's economy?
It is not good for the economy. It is not good for the individual, for businesses of the economy. First of all, when deflation is high, they're not going to be competitive again. It is difficult for you to be competitive in terms of if you're even trying to export your products.
Okay.
You produce locally and you want to export your products, the cost is very high and you cannot compete competitively in the international market. It is also not good for the economy because, like I said, the average Nigerian is paying heavily for it, and standard of living drops as this continues to go higher. It is not good for us to have high inflation rate because you see that we are also paying continuously. The government is paying so much for certain services that would have been lower in payment. So the lower the inflation rate, the better for everybody, both government, individuals, and everybody concerned.
Okay. So what measures and checks can be put in place to slow down the rising figures?
Yeah, to find out the solution for this, you first of all identify the costs. If you don't have an idea of what is increasing the inflation rate, then you may not be able to find the solution. The first reason I mentioned was the high exchange rate that has been going on.
Okay.
Unfortunately, let me just say unfortunately, the revenue base of the country coming from oil is still not as high as we expect it to be. If it is high enough, then we're going to have enough foreign currencies in our foreign reserve account to be able to take care of the demand for the foreign currencies. And so until that supply of our revenue base increases, and this increase is going to also come from the oil price and oil demand and things like that. Until that thing happens, it will be difficult to really reduce the exchange rates right now. But obviously, as prices of oil get better, we expect that...
yes, analysts are predicting that by the end of the year, we might go at least close to the $60 per barrel benchmark.
Yes, it is possible. Like you said today, price is about 45 point, yes, 45 point something in the international market. We know that China has indicated their interest in increasing their demand, heavy demand of oil in this particular month, August, and next month in September. So we expect that when that demand increases, and maybe more will come from some other economies that have opened up. You know, what actually caused the demand, the short demand before, was the fact that the entire economy closed down because of the lockdown. And now that they are beginning to open up, we expect that demand of oil is going to increase. Once the demand for oil increases, we also expect that the price will start rising. You know.
Okay, so do you see us getting back to the place of single digits inflation very soon?
Whether we'll get back to single digits, yes, we will get back if we get the right monetary policy decisions right.
Okay.
But whether it's going to be soon, I do not think it's going to be soon because we still have a whole lot of things that will drive that inflation rate back to where it used to be when it was single. So it may take a long time. I don't expect that it's going to happen this year.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to believe that every situation, the current situation, talking about COVID-19, is a possibility for either opportunities or threats. However, you can choose to use it as an opportunity.
That's right.
That's my take anyway. So what do you think?
Yeah, obviously, you know, in every economic downturn,
yes,
there are people whose time will come that time to become multi-billionaires. Even as we're talking about a weak economy right now, there are people who are doing so well. Of course, you know what is going on in the internet business. Everybody is talking about Zoom meeting and webinar today and things like that.
People are selling products
They're
online.
selling online. In fact,
Yes.
online sales now have increased far more than they used to be. Somebody who owns a supermarket told me the online sales they do 3 times more than what they used to do physically. So you see that for every situation, there are obviously opportunities, just for you to identify what opportunity that exists there.
Okay, so do you think there's any need to review government policies to fit these times that we're in, to overcome this?
I can tell you both the monetary policy and the fiscal policy have been doing a lot to sustain what we're going through, well, to actually improve on our situation. I have seen a lot of monies being pushed into the system through the fiscal policy. We have seen a lot of it happening through the monetary policy, where interest rates have been dropped, and the CBN keeps making sure that interest rates are dropped to make people have access to funds. Unfortunately, they are not going to be creating the kind of impact we expect almost immediately.
Okay.
Because you know, when you cut a tree, a green tree, you don't expect the leaves to dry up immediately. So that's the solution. You can cut a tree, but the leaves won't dry up immediately. Yeah. They have had their policies, but the impact or effect will not happen immediately.
So we'll just have to wait and see how soon this impact will affect our economy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chijoke Ekechukwu, an economist, for coming on the program today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. So when we come back, we will hear how shipments can promote regional integration, revenue generation, and job creation.
Let me assure Nigerians that all COVID-19 intervention funds are safe in the Treasury single account, and that government is still open to donations in this regard. Government has opened special accounts with 5 commercial banks which are directly linked to the Treasury single account. Donated funds are safe in the Central Bank of Nigeria. For verifiable information about the funds and other financial obligations of the federal government, please contact us directly at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. The account details for the donations are as follows.
So economic experts have described the birthing of the biggest gearless milk line on the Eastern Port as a blessing that will promote regional integration, revenue generation, job creation, and boost the nation's economy. Osinachi Abraham has details.
The One Port, situated in Eleme, Rivers State, is a multi-purpose cargo port involved in multiple operations such as general bulk and containerized cargoes, as well as other logistics services. It is one of the largest oil and gas free zones in the world, supporting exploration in production, onshore and offshore logistics, with easy access to the entire West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. The port covers an area of 2,538.111 hectares and has one of the biggest harbor mobile cranes in Africa. The vessel MV, with length of 300 meters and 48 meters, which berthed at One Terminal, is said to be the biggest container ship to ever call at the Nigerian port. A feat experts say is an indication that the eastern ports are equipped to receive all kinds of vessels, and federal government's determination to ensure all ports in Nigeria are working optimally.
Rivers State is a federal ocean terminal where it arrived, that is One, is a very big water. It has the capacity to carry any tonnage of vessel coming into the country.
So if we begin to have this kind of ships that come over here, to batch, one is going to lead to great employment for the people.
A statement signed by a spokesman of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Jato Adams, the vessel has a capacity of 9.971 20-foot equivalent unit, a flagship from Singapore. The berthing of the vessels, experts say, opens a new vista for economic growth of the nation. In Port Harcourt, Osinachi Abraham.
On the capital market, transactions are yet to pick up this Tuesday morning. However, transactions on the floor of the exchange opened the week negative Monday. The NSE All Share Index and market capitalization went down by 0.27% to close at 25,132.67 basis points as traders exchanged 161 million shares valued at 1.845 billion naira in 3,587 deals. The financial services industry led the activity chart, buoyed by transaction in the shares of Guarantee Trust Bank, Zenith Bank, and Sterling Bank. MTN Nigeria, Julius Berger, and Unilever were the top price gainers for the day, while Dangote Cement and Vitafoam topped the losers table. And with that, we've come to the end of this episode of Business Express. Don't forget, you can access this and other episodes on YouTube, and you can communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback, so join us again on Wednesday at 3 p.m. for another package. I am Muplang Dakok saying stay safe.